Hello.
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 I have to say, I love this time of counting the Omer, where we have these 49 days between Passover and between Shavuot. So, Passover, where we celebrate our freedom from slavery, and then Shavuot, where we receive our Torah. And as we receive our Torah at the foot of Sinai, we also see where are we going? What are, like, who are we? And so these times, like these 49 days, I feel like are these times of greater introspection and kind of figuring out who are we to receive this great tradition. And so each of these weeks is infused with a different aspect of God, called Sfirot. And so this past week was loving kindness, and this week is judgment. And that the whole idea for the Kabbalists is that these different aspects of God's, of these different attributes of God's, have to be in balance. So loving kindness has to be balanced by judgment. And I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people feel like judgment is somehow inherently bad or critical or too much, or it leads us, and certainly judgment and isolation can lead to all of the isms that we feel in this world. And even the Kabbalists said that judgment and isolation is what allowed evil to enter this world. But what I would say is that judgment can be used really productively to be able to give us guidelines, to be able to set up boundaries, for us to be able to be strategic, to think about what we want to see in this world. So, my question for you is, has there been a time in your life that you can think of where judgment was actually really helpful? And if you had only had loving kindness and it wasn't balanced by judgment, that actually it would not have been helpful, but that judgment has been helpful in your life in some way. And I don't know, Rabbi Singer, if you can already think of a time or a way that that's true for
Yeah,
you.
I think, well, I guess the person who really helped me think differently about this question of judgment is my sister, because she's a writer and she often writes cultural criticism or different critiques of different art, pop, especially pop culture, and she gets her own criticism in our family sometimes, where people in our family say, you're or even from friends or people on the internet will say you're way too critical. Why do you have to criticize everything? Why can't we just enjoy it sometimes? And I've definitely been one of those people who kind of felt like, oh, it's just a movie, like can't we just enjoy it? And she really talks about the idea of judgment or criticism as helping us uh, think differently and go deeper and understand like what role does this work and art play in our lives, and not in a sense of trying to take people's enjoyment away, but to really just help us bring in different perspectives. And she says like, yeah, we can enjoy these things sometimes, and some people really love talking about it, and I really love talking about it. And so that helped me think differently about what that kind of judgment is. And sometimes now I want access to that. And so if I have a question about a movie or a song or even like a recipe or something, I'll go on Twitter and I'll see what the people who love spending their time adding different voices to the conversation are saying about it.
I
uh,
love this because I also have to say, as somebody who used to be a film critic,
mhm.
that it so resonates with me. Like, criticism actually helps us see things a little bit more clearly, and we also notice things that we wouldn't otherwise. And I had just heard this interview with Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, and he was talking about the structure of writing a song. And this is because he just wrote this book about the structure of writing a song. And so in the person who was interviewing him said, well, is it that, like, like, does it hold you back now because every time you're listening to the radio, you're thinking, how did they write that song, and he said, does that take away from your enjoyment? And Jeff Tweedy was like, no, that's how I enjoy it. Like, that is my enjoyment. And so I love that because we don't have to say, oh, we have to enjoy things and put our mind away, but sometimes the way that we enjoy it is through that critical lens. I love that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. And Rabbi Conover, I mean, uh, movie critic is a much better word than, like, I don't know, movie judger. Um, I'm thinking about a moment that we had a couple of months ago, and Rabbi Singer, you said the word love like 3 or 4 times during what you were thinking about just now, and I think that so much of this is a balance between that love and judgment, and so that got me thinking to I don't know, it was late summer or so when the second stimulus checks or the first stimulus checks came out. And here Mayan and I were with this $1,200 check. We're like, we are lucky enough that we both still have our jobs and we don't need this. We want to donate this, but how and to who and to where and to what? And all of a sudden, this whirlwind of love and judgment, right? If with all of the organizations that we love around Chicago, I mean, we'd give like $5 to each organization. Um, and so it took a lot of real judgment to figure out, okay, this one I really love, but maybe they don't need this money for this particular reason right now, or this one, the money will go to a thing that I'm really feeling right now. And so, whereas we are not to judge people, we're not to judge others. I mean, I think a healthy judging of organizations and groups and things that people have come together to do to figure out what we support, because I want to support it all, but that would not, it wouldn't be enough for every one of them. But to identify one, two, or three to both put my money and my effort and love into has such a bigger payoff. Um,
I also think about how, to be able to be more loving and to have a world that's more loving, well, we have to use our judgment to see how we're going to be most effective and
mm,
strategic in doing that. And that's also for us as individuals and within our friends and family circles to be able to see how do we put our best selves forward. Like that requires discernment for how do we do that well. And I love one of the teachings by the Baal Shem Tov that says when you see something that really bothers you in another person, take a look
mm,
inward and see what it is that they're kind of bringing out in yourself that you don't like. And then maybe you start to work on that in yourself. And so I love the idea of using this way of being critical, using that, and being discerning and using our judgment so that we can see how do we both make ourselves and this world better, through using discernment, to balance out our inclination for loving kindness and to see how then we best channel that into the world. So I am looking forward to all the ways that we will do that this week of Dean, of judgment, and using that well for the week ahead. Thanks.